The air crackled with joyous energy, as if the very walls of the palace were alive with celebration. Laughter echoed through the grand hall of King Cepheus's palace, mingling with the clinking of goblets and the hum of excited conversations. Garlands of vibrant flowers adorned every pillar, their sweet fragrance filling the air and adding to the festive atmosphere. Tables overflowed with the finest delicacies, from roasted meats to exotic fruits, a feast that could satisfy even the most discerning palate. This was a celebration fit for a hero, a grand event that would be remembered for generations. Perseus, the slayer of the Gorgon Medusa, had returned triumphant, his bravery and strength the talk of the kingdom.
Today I will wed the beautiful Andromeda, the woman who has captured my heart and soul.
Perseus, clad in gleaming armor, beamed at his bride, his eyes shining with love and pride. Andromeda, a vision in flowing white, returned his gaze with equal adoration, her heart full of joy and anticipation. Their love story, born of trials and tribulations, had captivated the kingdom, inspiring songs and tales of their bravery and devotion. Today, they would seal their bond before the gods, pledging their love and loyalty for all eternity. The festivities reached a fever pitch, the air thick with excitement and anticipation. Musicians filled the hall with lively melodies, their fingers dancing across the strings of lyres, adding to the joyous atmosphere. Guests danced with abandon, raising their goblets, in toast to the happy couple, their cheers echoing through the hall. Yet, unbeknownst to all, a storm was brewing, dark clouds gathering on the horizon, a darkness that threatened to shatter the fragile peace, casting a shadow over the joyous celebration. A sudden gust of wind tore through the hall, extinguishing the torches and plunging the room into an eerie darkness. The once vibrant and lively atmosphere was now replaced by an unsettling void, as if the very essence of the hall had been sucked out. The music ceased abruptly, replaced by an unsettling silence. The musicians, caught off guard, exchanged worried glances, their instruments hanging limply in their hands. Confusion rippled through the guests. They looked around, their faces painted with a mix of fear and bewilderment, trying to make sense of the sudden darkness. Whispers of unease snaked through the crowd. The murmurs grew louder, a cacophony of anxious voices filling the air, each person speculating about the cause of the disturbance. The air grew thick with a palpable sense of dread. It was as if the very walls of the hall were closing in, suffocating the guests with an invisible weight.
Perseus! Where are you?
Andromeda gripped Perseus's hand, her eyes wide with apprehension. She could feel his pulse racing, mirroring her own fear. Perseus, ever vigilant, drew his sword, its polished surface reflecting the faint moonlight filtering through the windows. The blade seemed to hum with anticipation, ready for whatever threat lay ahead. He scanned the room, his senses on high alert, a cold knot of foreboding forming in his stomach. Every shadow seemed to move, every sound amplified in the oppressive silence.
Stay close to me. I won't let anything happen to you.
A low growl, guttural and menacing, echoed from the entrance. It sent shivers down the spines of everyone present, a primal fear taking hold. The crowd parted involuntarily, fear etched on their faces. They moved back, creating a clear path to the entrance, their eyes fixed on the source of the growl. A hulking figure, shrouded in shadow, strode into the hall. His presence was overwhelming, a dark force that seemed to suck the light from the room. His eyes, burning with fury, were fixed on Perseus. They were eyes that promised pain and retribution, eyes that had seen countless battles and emerged victorious. The intruder was Phineus, Andromeda's spurned suitor. His face, usually jovial, was contorted in a mask of rage. Jealousy and hatred radiated from him in waves. He had desired Andromeda for himself, and the sight of her hand in Perseus's ignited a firestorm of anger within him.
Perseus, you dare steal what is rightfully mine. Andromeda was promised to me.
The accusation hung heavy in the air. The guests, paralyzed by fear, watched the unfolding drama with bated breath. Andromeda, pale but resolute, stood firmly by Perseus's side. She had chosen Perseus, and she would not be cowed by Phineus's anger.
I stand with Perseus.
Phineus, this is a night of celebration. Put aside your anger. We can discuss this as civilized men.
King Cepheus, rising from his throne, spoke with a voice that, though laced with worry, held a king's authority. But Phineus was beyond reason. blinded by rage, he only saw red. He laughed, a harsh, grating sound that sent shivers down the spines of all who heard it.
Civilized? You offer me civility when this thief has stolen my bride? I will have satisfaction, Cepheus. I will have Andromeda, or I will have blood.
Phineus gestured wildly at Perseus, his face contorted with fury. The tension in the hall was palpable and the threat of violence loomed large. The tension snapped.
With a roar, Phineus drew his sword, a wickedly curved blade that glinted menacingly in the dim light.
His men, equally enraged, followed suit, surrounding Perseus and Andromeda with a ring of steel. The wedding celebration descended into chaos. Swords clashed. Shouts and screams filled the air as Perseus's loyal followers drew their own blades, defending their king and the newly married couple. The hall, moments ago filled with joy, became a battleground.
Perseus, ever the warrior, met Phineus's fury head-on. Their swords met in a shower of sparks, the force of the impact reverberating through the hall. But Perseus was outnumbered. For every one of Phineus's men he struck down, 2 more seemed to take their place.
As the battle raged, a gentle hand touched Perseus's shoulder. He turned, his sword raised, ready to strike. It was the goddess Athena, her gray eyes filled with concern but also with unwavering faith.
Perseus, she whispered, her voice barely audible above the din of battle. Remember the gift I bestowed upon you.
She was referring to the cabesus, the magical pouch that contained the head of Medusa. Perseus had almost forgotten about it in the heat of battle, but Athena's words were a lifeline, a reminder of the power he possessed.
Use it wisely, Perseus, she cautioned, her hand lingering on his arm for a moment before she vanished into the fray. This is not just a battle for your bride, but for justice itself.
Perseus knew what he had to do.
He fought his way back to back with Andromeda, their movements in perfect sync, a testament to the bond they shared.
Reaching into his pouch, he retrieved the Gorgon's head, its lifeless eyes still radiating a terrifying power.
He raised it high, the Gorgon's gaze sweeping across the battlefield.
A hush fell over the hall, the clang of steel dying down as Phineus's men turned to stone, their expressions frozen in masks of eternal terror. The power of Medusa, even in death, was absolute. One by one, Phineus's men were petrified, their bodies transformed into grotesque statues that littered the once magnificent hall. Panic flickered in Phineus's eyes as he witnessed the fate of his comrades. Yet, his rage, fueled by his wounded pride, refused to be quelled.
You think a mere monster can stop me?
Phineus bellowed, his voice laced with desperation. He charged at Perseus, his sword a blur of motion.
I will have my vengeance.
Perseus knew he couldn't risk looking directly at Phineus. The Gorgon's magic wouldn't differentiate between friend and foe. He had to rely on his cunning, his speed, and his skill as a warrior. The two clashed, their swords meeting in a blinding dance of steel. The air crackled with energy, each blow echoing the fury that raged within them. But Perseus was tiring, the weight of the Gorgon's head heavy in his other hand. He needed a plan, and fast. An idea sparked in Perseus's mind, a dangerous gamble, but one that just might work. He parried a blow from Phineus, using the momentum to spin away from his enraged opponent.
Look upon your men, Phineus. See what becomes of those who stand against the gods.
Phineus hesitated, his rage momentarily forgotten as he glanced back at his petrified men. It was a fatal mistake. In that brief moment of distraction, Perseus lunged forward, thrusting the Gorgon's head before Phineus's eyes.
No.
But it was too late. The Gorgon's magic took hold. The rage that twisted his features froze, replaced by a look of eternal horror. His body stiffened, turning cold and unyielding as stone encased him. He became a statue, forever locked in his final, furious moment. Silence descended upon the hall, heavy and absolute. The air was thick with the echoes of a battle that had just ended, leaving behind an eerie stillness. The only sound was the soft clinking of Perseus's armor as he lowered the Gorgon's head, its serpentine locks now lifeless. The weight of his victory was palpable. Around him lay the statues of Phineus and his men, a stark reminder of the battle that had just transpired. Each stone figure told a story of bravery and defiance, now frozen in time.
He turned to Andromeda, his heart pounding in his chest. Her presence was a beacon of hope amidst the chaos.
She rushed into his arms, her eyes filled with a mixture of relief and awe. He had done it. The embrace was a silent testament to their love and the trials they had overcome. He had defeated Phineus and saved his bride. The battlefield was now a testament to his courage and determination.
But Perseus knew his trials were far from over. The path of a hero was never easy, and he was prepared for whatever lay ahead. The Gorgon's head was a powerful weapon, one that carried a heavy burden. It was both a blessing and a curse, a tool of protection and destruction. He had used it to protect those he loved, but what would the future hold? The weight of his responsibilities pressed heavily on his shoulders. And what of Andromeda, his beloved bride? Their future together was uncertain, filled with both promise and peril. Would she be safe now that Phineus was gone? Or would new threats emerge from the shadows?
The answers he knew lay ahead, shrouded in the mists of fate. The journey was far from over, and the road ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty. The adventure, it seemed, was far from over, to be continued. The legend of Perseus and Andromeda would continue to unfold, with new challenges and triumphs awaiting them.